Hello everyone. Let's get started with another user research methods. We will today learn about field observation. So in this lecture you will learn how to conduct a systematic field observation capturing real user behavior in authentic settings. So we will see how all we can record our observations. We will look at descriptive ways, reflective ways and analytical ways. We will also mitigate the Hawthorne effect through extended exposure and careful research design. We will also analyze our observation data through thematic coding and behavior mapping to identify the patterns. So let's get started. So what is field observation? Field observation is systematically watching and recording how users interact with products, services or environments in their natural settings. So as we had discussed in the case of contextual inquiry, same is for field study observations, it happens in the natural settings. So it is not like lab observation. Field observation prioritizes ecological validity, which means you have to conduct it in the natural settings with all the natural disruptions which might be happening and all the adjustments in the settings which people might have done. So it helps you in capturing behavior as it is naturally unfolds without researchers' intervention or any artificial constraints. Field observations reveal context-dependent patterns, social dynamics, environmental constraints and real-time decision making which are otherwise invisible in interviews or controlled settings. So when we are conducting this field observation, we will be again using the AEIOU guidelines in order to structure how we are going to do the observation. So let me explain this field observation with an example. So let's take the context that if I go to a park, I want to understand how an urban park is used by different kinds of users for different kinds of activities. And I am looking only at the morning time space, the early morning, the dawn, and then when the sun has already risen. So little bit let's say if 5 o'clock the sunrise happens, so maybe from 5 o'clock onwards to 7 or 8 in the morning, I have decided my time frame for doing this observational study. So I should always have certain questions in my mind which will direct what kind of observations do I want to make when I am in the field. So how do different user groups negotiate shared park space during peak hours? That's one question. What role does built infrastructure like paths, bars, benches play in shaping these activity types in the park? How does the park's natural environment like light, water, trees influence users' choice of the exercise in that particular area? What observation methods would best capture the temporal transition from fitness to social use? How might this observational data inform urban park design for wellness? So the last question that you see is basically my main objective of the study. So I want to redesign public park spaces so that they are more effective. And in order to do that, I am conducting this entire observational study. So let's take the first place that I go to do the observation. So here you can see that it is just morning is coming, so sun is rising, and the way the park is designed, the trees, the location of them, I can see that the whole park has a very beautiful soft golden light through all those trees coming into the park, creating a beautiful peaceful environment. So the environment is designed for flexibility also. So you can see in this whole area there are certain pathways which direct movement in a certain way. Then I have green spaces which direct certain kind of activities. I have a water body which again directs certain kind of activities. I have large trees and other such things which help in creating certain interactions. So as we studied about AEIOU, first we are trying to note down the environment. You can do it any sequence. However, in this particular context, I am starting with understanding this environment first at that particular time. So environment in this public space will keep changing depending on the time of the day. Then I saw in this whole space, you can see that there are some people who are cycling over here. There is a lady who is running. There is another group over here who are performing Tai Chi. So, the park is actually being simultaneously used by multiple people, either individually or in groups, to do certain kind of activities. The observation also reveals clearly that the people who are using the park at this hour of the day are also belonging to different age, different ethnic groups, and they all have different kinds of energy levels. So, there is a complexity of coexisting activity types in this shared public space. People have to agree that yes, this is shared and all of us should be able to use the space without obstructing someone else from using the space, and make space for everybody. So, is the space allowing that or not? So, I will start observing this. So, the key insight from this first observation of the environment is that there is a complex coexisting happening in this whole space. There are people of different age, different ethnicity, different kind of activities that they want to perform, and all of them are existing peacefully in this shared space and doing their activities. Next, I will start focusing on individual activities, or I can also, as the AEIU states, I can now decide to focus on the activities. So, rather than going to individuals first, I decided to group them on the basis of activities, what activities they are doing, and I will go and do an observation. Always remember, when you want to do these observational studies, you should take permission before starting an observation. Let's say when I go to observe this particular group performing Tai Chi, do not just intrude into the space without giving them an information what you are trying to do. Do not take pictures or videos without an consent from the participants. So, always inform them about your objective, and then if they permit, then you can take notes of what they are trying to do. If they permit, you can take also photographs and videos. So, in this particular space, you can see that there is a group who is performing Tai Chi. They have decided this particular space where there is a pond beside them and there is an empty space around this particular space, and they are doing Tai Chi over here. That is an interesting observation point to make, that what the environment is. I can also note down that they have some mats around them and some reusable water bottles which are made up of stainless steel. So, they are wearing certain kind of shoes, they are wearing certain kind of clothes. Who is the leader of this group? This old lady is the leader of this group. Then I will also look at the kind of other environmental factors. So, like there are certain trees around this space, and the trees are ensuring that the light is filtered out through them in a certain. So, all this gives me certain idea about the activity that they are doing, the environment in which they are doing, the different objects that they hold, the kind of interaction which is happening within the group. So, they have a leader, and not that everybody knows doing Tai Chi, so they are all following the leader. You can later on ask these questions. Is it a group that with whom you regularly do exercise and still you are the leader, or is it like you always get in a new group and you are the teacher who is teaching them in this space also? So, these are questions which you will be asking further on, but during field observation we try not to obstruct the flow of the activities which is happening by asking questions. So, the key insights from this particular observation of this particular frame shows that there is a non-verbal coordination which is happening. People are following the leader, the movements that is happening, and the leader over here is not giving verbal instructions. Okay, let's do this now, take deep breath in, take deep breath out, no such instructions. The leader is doing it and everybody is following it. So, seems like there is a kind of a social bond, and maybe this group every day performs and they are not having teacher-student relationship over here. So, let's move on to the next frame. So, when you come to this next frame, you will see that there is a person, a solitary male, most likely looks like in his late 20s, and he is performing some pull-ups on this outdoor calisthenic station. This person is not having any social interaction while doing this exercise. This person is doing it pretty alone in this particular place. The place also has more such equipments. You can see there is another bar over here, there is a bench over here, and there are other instruments, so others can also come and join when they want. I will also observe the kind of objects this person has. This person has a towel and a reusable water bottle. There is also some benches kept over here, which implies that the public space designer had kept in mind that this particular space will be used by people who would want to bring a towel and a bottle, and they would like to keep it somewhere. They might want to take a rest between exercises, or when they are waiting for somebody to leave a particular equipment, and then it is their turn to use it. So they have also designed a bench for such activities. Again, when we look at the entire setup, so this whole setup has been made close to very old trees, which ensures that the foliage is still giving this space also very soft light. So again, you can see that I am trying to structure my observation on A, E, I, O, U. So moving on to the next frame. So in this particular frame, I can see that there is a group who are doing some running kind of exercise. So this is a group of diverse runners who are have chosen the gravel path for their exercise. This is also a group activity, but this group activity is very different from how the Tai Chi group activity was happening. You can again look at how the environment is shaping up, because they are following the gravel path. So although the whole park has lots of old trees, but they might also pass through certain patches which are not shaded and certain patches which are more shaded. We can look at the kind of accessories that they are carrying. So let's say this person is not carrying any accessory. However, you can see that this person is carrying a hydration belt. So maybe she is trying to go for long distance running, and that's why she is carrying this hydration belt. I can also see that she is wearing a smartwatch, whereas the others are not wearing the smartwatch. So when I look at this particular scene, my key insights can be that Tai Chi was a different kind of a social interaction. Here, when you are running together, you are still interacting with each other. Most likely in this frame, that is how I observe that they are interacting to certain extent, but the interaction is very different in nature. The interaction in Tai Chi was more non-verbal, and they were following the actions of the leader. Here in this case, there is more talking happening. Some people who are running shorter distances and for more fun, like this group in the back, they are talking about certain things in their life, whereas this lady who is focusing more on distance running, she is more focused on running and is less into the social interaction part of it. Now we are moving on to a little bit later part of the morning. So we started our observation at 5 o'clock in the morning, and now it is already 6:30 in the morning, and I can see that slowly the nature of the interaction in the park is changing. So I can see that the ladies who were earlier performing Tai Chi are now settle down for a more relaxed discussion with each other. You can see the way they are doing it. So they have spread out their yoga mats, they have brought some coffee also with them, and over a cup of coffee they are having a social interaction with each other. The rest of the group has left, so maybe the rest of the group has a different kind of a social interaction pattern as compared to these two ladies who might want to spend more time over here after their Tai Chi is done. So I again go into other spaces in the park, so I will not take you more through the space, but I can easily see that from exercise the park is slowly transitioning into a more social space where people are coming in for social interaction, and a community life is slowly building in. So From this entire observation that I performed in this park for the last 2 hours, I will create a list of insights. So, my key insights are: the park is right now serving a space to be, it is a coexisting activity zone. So, people are able to do different kinds of activities like tai chi, running, cycling, doing certain physical fitness like bench press and other things, and all of them are occurring simultaneously. So, there is dual mode infrastructure in the park. So, the park environment supports both solitary activities like the calisthenic activities, and also it supports group exercises without spatial conflict happening between this individual versus group activities. The movement over there also helps in creating social bonds. So, let us say if the paths were too narrow, then people would not be able to walk simultaneously with each other. However, the paths are designed in a manner that multiple people can walk or run beside each other, in helping in creating this social bond while they are doing their exercise. We also saw that there was enough space so that cyclists can also cycle together in a group of 2 to 3 cyclists, so that there is again a social bonding while they are doing that particular exercise. There were different objects which also gave us idea about certain behavioral cues. So, like the towel, the hydration belts, the ceramic mugs, they all signal that the groups that we were talking about, they had serious commitment to fitness. I might also go to other groups who were not carrying any product with them, which are more suitable for their particular kind of context. Now, coming to fitness to social transition. So, I observed also that the park shifted from active exercise to restorative conversation as the mornings slowly started progressing. There is also this individual to communal. So, the park functioned as a mediating space connecting personal fitness to shared social life. So, when I am making these field notes, when I am doing this observational study, I have to remember 3 different parts about how to make these field notes. So, these are the 3 levels in which I am making these field notes. The first layer is the descriptive notes. Here I will be noting down all the observable facts, the verbatim quotes if I hear people's voices, the physical description of the whole space. So, in the last couple of minutes, I have been trying to do the same thing. So, I was verbalizing all the observations that I am making. So, in these descriptive notes, you are supposed to actually write down all those things which I have been verbalizing till this point of time. The physical description of the objects, the environment. Try not to have interpretations, because in these descriptive notes the whole idea is I will capture as much as observation, because somebody might be not wearing a smartwatch. I might interpret that that person is not very serious about their physical exercise, but that might not be the reality. So, I should in these descriptive notes only write down that I observed that there were 5 people who were wearing smartwatches for running, and there were 20 others who were not wearing smartwatches for running. It is a matter of later questioning the users to understand why they were wearing it and why they were not wearing it. So, do not put down your interpretations over here. So, like user checks watch, glances at screen for less than 1 second and places back on desk. That is the kind of descriptive statement that you will write over here. You will not make an interpretation of why do you think they just looked at it less than 1 second, or why do you think they put it back on the desk and not on their wrist, something like that. The next layer is the reflective notes. Here you start writing down about your impressions. So, I am seeing a person who is wearing the hydration belt and who is also wearing a smartwatch and running. So, what is your impression of that? So, here when we are trying to write down these impressions, I am trying to make an hypothesis. I think this person is doing it because this person is going to go for a long run, and this person is training for a longer professional runs, or is very serious about their fitness and want to track their fitness. You can also note down at this point of time if you have any confusion, like why they are doing this particular activity. You might also write down about the patterns that you are noticing. So like, why such a quick glance? Seems like verification, not exploration. So these kind of reflective notes are to be written down. The third layer is the analytical notes. Here you are allowed to write your interpretations. So here you try to create connections to theory. So I see that people who are trying to do exercises like Tai Chi or yoga, they select a place where there is pond beside it. So maybe the water body has an effect on the calming nature of these exercises, and that's why their choice for that particular location. And then I will see whether there is a connection to a certain theory, whether this has certain design implications. So let's say, for example, somebody glances and verifies the trust, which is somebody glances at something and verifies that it is happening. So there is a trust. So what the design implication can be? Make confidence less visible without the tap on the watch. So 3 layers of these field observations, and you have to be clearly distinguishing these 3 layers. They should not be mixing with each other. Why? Because the reflective notes and the analytic notes, they are supposed to lead to further questions which you can ask through contextual inquiry or through interview later on. Now coming to the Hawthorne effect and the ecological validity. So the Hawthorne effect says that users change behavior when they know they are being observed. So awareness of observation creates an artificial behavior. So whenever you are doing this field observation, you have to be very careful about this effect, and you have to try to avoid that from happening. So what are the mitigation strategies? You have to make an extended exposure. So the first 15 to 20 minutes are the least natural for people, and if you spend a little longer time than that, your users tend to forget your existence, and then more authentic data starts coming in. So maybe if you are trying to do this observational study in the park, then it might be a good idea that do the observational study for couple of days. If that is not feasible, then do it for every group, do it for a little longer time frame. If you are on a timeline which does not allow you multiple days, then you can also see if it is possible to engage more number of researchers who can engage with different parts of the park. Rapport building is another important thing. So if you have trust with your participants, again they become less observant about your presence and try to less modify their behavior. Again, normalization. So return to the same settings or the participant multiple times, because more you visit them, they become more used to you. Always try to do unobtrusive observation. So minimize interaction, position yourself out of direct line of sight. However, do take permission, do not do covert observation. The natural framing is also important. So explain observation as part of understanding the context and not like you are trying to evaluate the users. That goes a long way in avoiding this Hawthorne effect. So our whole goal is to make observation invisible to the participants, so behavior becomes as authentic as possible. There are 3 dimensions of observation design. So the first one is where you are supposed to set this observation. So the observation can be done in field or in lab. Field observation is when it is in the natural context, and lab observation happens when you build the context in a lab or you simulate the context. Field observation, they are naturalistics and observe users in their real environment. That maximizes ecological validity. Lab is a good situation when you want to do controlled observation. So let's say you want to see how somebody will interact with an X-ray machine. It is not a good idea to put it into the real environment where it might endanger the safety of patients. So in those particular contexts, try to do a lab observation. You have good control over here on the environment, but it is less authentic because what you have minused out is all the noise that happens in the real environment of the hospital. Now, second dimension is about the involvement of the observer, the researcher themselves. So you can be a complete observer, which means you are hidden. So not like covert observation, what it implies, you are out of sight and you are not participating in the activity. You can also become observer as a participant. So in this, you are known to the group that you are participating in the group activity, but you are still the observer, but you become a participant. So let's say you become a participant in the Tai Chi group, you also start running with the running group, you start doing exercise with the cycling group. So here you are observer as a participant. However, ensure that there is minimal interaction that you are doing. The whole idea is you to be an observer to see how others are interacting. When you get into the interaction, you always remember you are impacting the I factor and the U factor in the AEIOU. You can also do participant as observer. So here it is an active participation. So you can also recruit one of the person who is an existing participant of the park, and you train them how to do the observation, and they become active participant because they are the participant in the whole environment and they are also the observer. You can also be a complete participant, wherein it is an embedded and covert activity. However, there is ethical dilemma involved in this, so you need to have proper permissions and a proper justification why you are doing and what level of covertness is to be maintained and from whom. Then the third dimension is the structure, unstructured to structured. So in unstructured, it is totally open-ended. So you do not know about what is happening in the park. So you cannot go ahead with a certain idea in mind that I want to observe X, Y, Z. However, unstructured does not mean that you have no idea. Absolute no idea. It still means that you are going to a park, you have a certain time frame in your mind, you want to observe the spaces, you want to observe the people. So you still have the AEIOU over there, but at a much broader level, and then we call it as open-ended unstructured. It is more meant for exploration. Then comes the structured, where everything is predetermined, there is a checklist and there is systematic recording format involved. The the semi-structured comes in between them, which was how this particular example that we discussed was designed. So most fieldwork blends both of them. So in the beginning you might have more unstructured, then you can have semi-structured, and then you may decide for something more structured. Now coming to how do you plan these field observations. So as you saw in the example, of course I started with defining my objectives. Then I selected my setting, the park. Then I went ahead and recruited the participants, which is the different kind of activity based participants. Then I had a protocol, so I set down certain questions. I decided I will observe them for 15 minutes or 20 minutes. I will observe them on certain days of the week. I will come back again and again, or there will be 5 group of researchers doing it. So they all form the part of the design protocol. Then I will conduct a pilot session. So conduct one observation with protocol to test the feasibility of it and refine before main data collection starts. So when you go into conducting this observation session, it is always important that you plan for a timing. So I will have a time that I arrive at a particular time, then I have to build rapport with certain groups. So I will have 10 minutes for that, let's say. Then there will be a orientation. Participants walks you through the space or the workflow at a higher level. Then I can have the main observation for 30 to 45 minutes. So participant does normal activities, you observe, take notes minimally. Clarification. So after the observation has happened, clarification can happen for 10 minutes, where you can ask them about specific moments that you observed, and then you will be debriefing them, wherein you thank the participant, answer any questions if the participant had. The recording approach over here has to be about field notes, which are non-obtrusive, low tech, like pen and paper. Video and audio gives you rich data, but take permission. Same goes with photograph. There are also ethical issues involved, so you should not be making people's faces visible as far as possible. Try to take photos or videos without taking their face. The data should be objective and decontextualize to save also the participants from any possible harm. Balance richness of data with the intrusiveness. It should not become too intrusive. Taking notebooks, sensitive, selective videos for key moments is something what you should target at, and not trying to record everything. So always remember, observation is not passive reception but active engagement with the world. What you see depends on where you stand and what you are looking for. So the key takeaways from this lecture are: look for ecological validity, its importance if you are trying to go for field observation. If ecological validity is not such a big issue, or the ecology is not somewhere where the ecosystem does not support doing the testing, like in case of a X-ray machine, try to conduct a lab observation. Otherwise, go for a field observation because you will capture rich data of actual usage context. Take layered field notes, or see how can you avoid the Hawthorne effect, and then we can perform a thematic analysis by coding. More on this later in this particular week. So here are some of the key references for you to go through, and thank you so much. See you in the next lecture.